Hey guys, Lyra Linx here, and today I am coming at you with a RWBY Volume 6 review slash just sort of my thoughts on it. So, a little warning, there are going to be spoilers because I'm going to be talking about a lot of scenes that happen. So if you haven't watched yet, you should totally check out roosterteeth.com and check that out before I get into here because I might get a little heated on a couple things. Anyway, let's get right into it. Volume 6, in many ways, is like a saving grace of this series for me. Volume 4 kind of was and I liked a lot of things about Volume 5, but also I felt like in many ways, as many other viewers did, that certain things were falling off track, and even though I was never going to give up the series because I love it so much and I need to see how this ends, I was just kind of disappointed. And so Volume 6 immediately picked things back up for me, and I'm so grateful for that. Even with just the theme song, I really liked the opening song this time around, and Volume 4 and 5 didn't really deliver that for me. And for some reason, I feel like the opening is very important because it's RWBY, and the first three really hit it home for me. And so to be really into a theme song again was a great way to start things. This season for me did just what it needed to do to hook me back in. It started answering questions, finally, that people have had for a while. I was finally getting answers, and I was invested again. We got to see the history of Ozpin, or Ozma, and we got a background on Salem too, and the old fable of how they got together, how they had their family, how the gods were involved, and all of this from the knowledge that Jean offered. And that was amazing. Jean the Genie, she is great. I'm so happy that that exists and that we could finally look back in all these flashbacks and see what happened. Ozpin has been hiding so much, and it was good for RWBY and the group to finally take steps forward and question him and finally just see for themselves what's happening because he was never going to tell them. I was completely invested in the Salem background episodes. I thought that it was so interesting to finally see sort of who she is and why she is the way that she is. And now knowing that she's immortal, I'm wondering how they're even going to combat her. It seems like Ozpin wants to take her down, but he realizes that she is immortal, and we finally see this real side to him where he admits that he doesn't know how to take her out. And I wonder if part of him not being able to handle this might be that he still has some love left over for her. I'm kind of curious to see how things are going to develop in the future, because I wonder if when Ozpin finally confronts her, if he'll feel old feelings of love for her still and even be able to come to fight her. Not only was I happy that story was finally developing, but just simply looking at RWBY Volume 6, you can see all of these improvements in how the animation looks. The characters look very nice, and you can see that things are developing slowly and slowly. Over time, a series gets more developed and better looking, so I was really happy to see how beautiful everything was starting to look. The backgrounds are awesome, the characters look awesome, and it just all together was so lovely and captured my eye. This series needed to see some character development as well, and while I think that there's more shaping that really could be done there, it's starting to move in those directions. RWBY finally meeting another person with silver eyes is just perfect. Somebody finally needed to teach her how to use this ability instead of it just coming out in random bursts. And the introduction of Maria, otherwise known as the Grim Reaper, was great. She is a hilarious character, an adorable old lady, and who knew the secrets that she held inside. It's great that RWBY can have a mentor like that and finally start developing and growing and becoming more of a leader. However, I feel like I agree with a person known as Eruption Fang. If you check out his review of RWBY, I agree with a lot of what he has to say, and he sort of delves in and explains it better than I'm going to be able to. But I have to agree with him on certain points, such as the fact that while I was excited to see that RWBY is developing this skill, I think that she is kind of mastering it already way too soon. The introduction of the apathy in Volume 6 made for an amazing episode and one of the coolest Grimm that I have ever seen. And when RWBY used her technique there, I have to agree with Eruption Fang. In that instance, it was perfect. She needed to save her friends. She was in a moment of desperation, and it worked really well. And that entire episode and that scene were very powerful for me and seemed to leave a large impact. However, when she was fighting that Grimm that came out of the sea, it was less climactic in a way. She sort of used Jean in that instance to pause time for herself so that she had more time to think because the ability wasn't working. And that made sense. Like Maria said, she had to do trial and error in order to master this ability. However, I thought that it would take a lot more trial than just one time of it not working. I feel like instead of it working in the instance that Jean left and she was able to try it over again, that shouldn't have worked out so well for her. She should have had to come up with a different idea to fight this Grimm, because I don't think that it should be something that she's able to use every time. It's sort of an overpowered ability. She has the ability to totally petrify Grimm. If she can just start to use that whenever she desires, it seems like that would just make her character too OP and godlike, and then what would be the point in struggling and working hard to fight these creatures? It sort of makes them seem like they don't really have a point. Although I do have to admit, in the scene where she was remembering all of those times with her friends, all these flashbacks throughout the whole season of RWBY, that really did get to me on an emotional level, so I feel like in its whole, the scene wasn't too bad. It was a great idea, and I can see how she could draw that power from all those memories of her friends, but it just didn't seem like the right timing overall. But it really hit me hard, especially as soon as it flashes to her mom in one scene and she turns around. That just got to me. So I feel like overall it was a pretty cool concept, but I'm hoping that it won't be something that RWBY becomes totally dependent on using. I'd like to see her be able to fight alongside of her friends and get better over time. Speaking of which, all of her friends and their development and fighting abilities, I feel like RWBY is starting to really get a hold of her semblance. We see her just shifting into roses a lot more and shooting forward. It's very cool. Weiss is making use of all those ice creatures that she can distribute. Yang is very powerful, still has great punches. She's learned to use her arm incredibly well. I didn't think that she'd be able to get back up too soon. But I'm kind of disappointed that my very favorite character, Blake, doesn't seem to be as developed as the others. I believe I heard somewhere that the writers have a very hard time writing for Blake, and I feel like this is really shining through, and that's a very unfortunate thing. I love Blake. I love everything about her. I feel like she has so much potential to be an incredible character, and I don't know if she's going to get the full development that she deserves. Blake's semblance really does fit her character perfectly. Being able to run away and sort of fade into a shadow, make replacements. But I feel like it never really gets developed more than that. It's a very cool ability, but it seems like with her friends' abilities, they each find new ways to use them or sort of have an upgrade. And I feel like she doesn't really have an upgrade that the other three characters do. I feel like Ruby, Weiss, and Yang have really developed their semblances, have learned new things about them, and they're using that to their benefit in each battle. But I feel like Blake hasn't really been given that gift, and it makes me very sad because I want to see her power up more and get through more. And I really hope that that happens in the future, but who knows? Speaking of characters and wanting to see more of them, I feel like Jean is sort of finally finding a purpose for himself. In this volume, he's seen healing people and boosting people's powers, such as Ren on the train, and that's very great to see. Jean used to be such a useless seeming character, and I felt so bad for him, but now he's finally finding his place on the squad, and that's great. There's even a scene where he finds the statue of Pyrrha, and he sort of goes through some emotions again. It really hit me to see her standing there, sort of gave me some chills. And then there's this mystery girl that sort of appears with flowers to give to the statue, and she talks to Jean for a moment. She looks a lot like Pyrrha herself, and I'm wondering if she has some sort of relation to her, or if she'll ever pop up again. I'm kind of hoping that maybe that will be explained more on, but who knows? It could just be a total mystery. But I'm very happy with the way that Jean is being developed. I want to see him just get even stronger in the future and have more combat potential, or really work as an excellent strategist and just develop his skills more and more. It also sort of adds to his character development that he's been questioning Ozpin, and not just Ozpin, but Oscar. He's wondering if they're one and the same, if Oscar is working together with him to sort of work against the team. And I feel like it's important to question these things and to question motives in general. Jean sort of questions what they're even doing, pursuing going after Salem, when it turns out that maybe it's all pointless because Ozpin doesn't have a plan and she's sort of immortal. And Weiss sort of has this concern too back when they're in the town with the apathy, but it's never really expanded upon. It seems like something she only said when she was feeling tired, and I kind of wonder if the other members truly feel that way. And it seems like RWBY has this total optimism about pursuing it, but none of them have a plan, and I feel like it's sort of important to ask these questions because it's fair to wonder that. How are they even going to manage this? They're sort of just a small group of people up against the world. Salem is so powerful, and at the end of the series, it's even shown that she's creating even more Grimm, and who knows what they might be capable of. So it begs the question of how they are going to become powerful enough to take her out in the first place. And she sent her team after them, so who knows what Team RWBY is going to be facing in the future. Now let's talk about the villains in RWBY. I, for whatever reason, have really liked Tyrion. He's absolutely psychotic and just a very fun character. He just laughs hysterically at everything, and I think that it's great. He seems to sort of be keeping an eye over Mercury as well as Emerald especially, and freaking them out, sort of seeing their motives a little bit. We kind of see a different side to Emerald here as she's questioning what they're doing, and Mercury doesn't really seem to care at all. It's a lot different than their dynamics in earlier volumes, where it seemed more fun-loving and even a little bit flirtatious on Mercury's part. And I'm very interested to see how these villains in particular will develop. Many people are hoping the best for them and that things will change, but I feel like they're sort of trapped in a really bad situation and they're gonna stay loyal to Cinder until the end. Speaking of Cinder, she makes a glorious return in this volume, and that's totally what I wanted to see. Honestly, to me, Cinder should have died when she died. I did not want to see her come back, and I couldn't have been more disappointed to watch her crawl onto my screen. I was interested in Cinder when she was introduced. I wondered what she stood for, what she was going to do, but I did not want to see her come back. When she died, I thought that that was good enough, that that was it. She was already battered to begin with, lost an eye, lost an arm, and had to be recreated by Salem. And it just makes me wonder, what's the point of bringing her back just because she has this hell-bent desire to destroy Ruby like other people don't. I just don't see a point in her character existing. But on the bright side, because she does exist, a certain other character that I adore came back to find her. The return of Neo is something that a lot of fans have been waiting for, asking for, and I'm so excited to see her. My heart skipped a beat when she appeared again and started fighting Cinder. Honestly, I wish that they could have finished their little fight and that Neo could have destroyed her, but at least they're teammates now. I don't know if I like that very much because I feel like Cinder will just use her, but I'm so excited to see Neo. I want to see some backstory to this girl, to see her just actually get developed. She's mute and we don't know why that is, so there's a lot of things that could be done with it, and I'm hoping that she's not just wasted potential like so many other things are in this show. It actually really got to me to see her appear with Torchwick's hat. I thought that he died way too soon in the series, and who knows, maybe she'll be able to avenge her boss. To wrap up my review and thoughts here, I just wanted to end with a scene that I have been waiting for a long time. However, as much as I've been waiting for this to happen, I kind of wish that it didn't happen so soon. Let's talk about Adam. Adam has been a shadow in Blake's mind for so long, and he's a part of her. It's like something that she can't erase within herself. Having Adam as part of her backstory, I felt made her a very interesting character. They have a strange dynamic, this mentor and teacher, this past romance, something that went wrong in her, something that made her decide to quit the White Fang because she didn't want to murder and hurt people like he did anymore. They were sort of two sides to the same coin. And like she said back in earlier volumes, Blake believes that the White Fang is sort of this gray line that you can't really decide between good and evil. And so that's why I really liked Adam's character. You couldn't necessarily call him completely evil because he really fought for this cause, but at the same time, his methods were a little different than other people. Adam was a force in Blake's life that she just couldn't get rid of, and she was left with a lot of stress after having the encounter where he stabs her and then removes the arm of her partner. And so that's something that she's carried with her and felt guilt over for a long time. So I was really excited to finally see a fight between the two. Yang also has this post-traumatic stress that she can't get rid of, and this fear of Adam after what happened. Honestly, though, I kind of wish that this fight would have been solely between Blake and Adam, because then it wouldn't have ended the way that it did. Blake sort of needed to be able to confront him again and test her strength, but I think that it would have been far more interesting to have a fight where Blake loses and something happens where Adam ends up having to run off, but I didn't like that Yang and Blake were able to kill him so easily. If I'm being fully honest, when I was watching this fight, I was super excited. I was completely into it, and I felt very happy when they stabbed him. Like, finally they overcame this and got rid of a large obstacle in their way. But the more I thought on it, and the more reviews and opinions I saw from people, I realized that it was kind of soon for them to be able to do that. Adam was built up as being a very powerful force in their way, and it kind of seemed like he would be a villain that they would face way later on in the series, after they'd gained a lot more strength. But they didn't really improve all that much, and honestly, it seems like they should have fumbled more. They had all of this trauma from him, so it seems like it should have slowed their actions, and they hadn't trained enough. Yang hadn't used her arm enough. I felt like it was not as satisfying the more I thought about it, even though initially I was super happy for it. It was a fight that I'd been waiting for a long time, and I wanted Blake to be able to overcome this to finally move forward in her life and hopefully form better friendships with her team. And that's yet to be seen. I hope that it'll give her character development in the future as well as Yang, but it's something that hasn't really been touched on now. In the later episodes after it happens, even though there's only one or two more after the fact, it seems like they would sort of talk about it and feel more remorse, but they haven't really had that sit down conversation. I'm hoping maybe in later volumes it can be brought up again, but based on how the writing goes, I don't think that that'll happen, which is very unfortunate. The scene with Blake crying at the end of killing him, I thought was something that would show her remorse for doing it because of the connection that they had, but I wonder if it was more that she just wanted to keep her promise to Yang. She mentioned that and that she would never break that promise. And I kind of wondered what compelled her to cry. The fact that she was guilty for running away and wanted to be better friends with everybody, or if she actually felt some remorse for killing somebody who once meant a lot to her. And I don't think that that would be unusual. If in the future she ends up feeling some guilt and learns from that, I feel like that could help her character because I really think that she needs more development. I love her character and I want her to get as developed as the other ones. I feel like she's just not as touched on as the other girls, and that's so disappointing. But I feel like that'll fall short, and I'm very sad to say that. But I still very much love Blake. I can't change anything that happened. As much as the audience can complain about the wasted potential, especially with his branding with the Schnee Dust Company, imagine what that would do to Weiss. What if Blake in the future talks to her about that, mentions that? Maybe since they're going back to Atlas, Weiss can learn about this and then have it be a major point to discuss with her father, although I doubt they'll take things in that direction. There's just so much wrapped up into Volume 6 that I couldn't possibly completely cover, and I had so many feelings regarding this, so this review ended up going everywhere with all of my opinions just flying. But that's just how I feel. There were a lot of very good scenes that I was happy with, and there were some other things that were lackluster. I love getting more explanation on characters and background stories. That is very good, and I would love to see some more of that in future volumes. And I really am curious to see how this is all going to end. There's a lot of stuff that I don't like that happened, and people complain about the writing a lot, thinking that it's just not as good as it used to be. And now that I'm rewatching the series, I really am reminiscing on the older episodes and kind of missing how it was then. There was so much potential that could have been unlocked. And I'm just still holding on to this series. I still love it a lot. And I'm hoping that minor errors can get fixed and that in the end it'll still turn out well. I have been waiting for this finale for a while, so who knows how that'll go. And by the time Volume 7 comes out, I will try to do another review. I'm actually very excited because this year my college is having ElmaCon yet again. This will be, I believe, my third time going to it, and I'm going to be cosplaying as Blake, so that's going to be great. I'm hoping to do more RWBY and other anime related videos in the future. I want to do a series where I sort of say my unpopular opinions regarding anime, so I hope you'll tune in for that. Leave more suggestions in the comments. Be sure to check out Eruption Fang if you'd like to see another good Volume 6 review. And stay tuned for more content. Like and subscribe for more. I hope you have a great night or day, and goodbye.